Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into plant-based proteins.
Okay.
You've probably heard about them,
Yeah.
even tried a few,
Yeah.
but are they just a trend or is there something more to it? Well, that's what we're going to try to find out today.
Yeah.
I've got some articles, research papers, and even a few notes from my own experiments in the kitchen,
Okay.
all about plant-based proteins.
Nice.
To help me unpack all this, I've got an expert here with me today.
Great to be here.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are curious about plant-based proteins but don't know where to start.
Absolutely. So first things first.
Yeah.
Where do we even find these plant-based proteins? It seems like there's a whole world beyond tofu and tempeh these days.
You're right. There's a lot more out there than you might think.
Okay.
Let's start with legumes.
Okay.
You've got your lentils, chickpeas, beans, all packed with protein and fiber.
Okay.
For example, a single cup of cooked lentils has about 18 grams of protein.
That's a lot.
It-
It's almost like a protein cheat code hidden in my pantry.
Yeah, and the cool thing about legumes is that they're also a good source of iron.
Okay.
Something to keep in mind if you're transitioning to a more plant-based diet.
So it's not just about getting enough protein.
Right.
It's about making sure you're getting all the nutrients you need.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Now, I know quinoa is a popular plant-based protein source, but I've always heard it called a complete protein.
Yes.
What does that even mean?
A complete protein means it contains all 9 essential amino acids that our bodies can't produce on their own.
Gotcha.
Now, while quinoa is a great source of complete protein, not all plant-based proteins are.
Right.
That's where the idea of complementary proteins comes in.
Okay, I'm intrigued, complementary protein.
Exactly. It's about combining different plant-based protein sources to make sure you're getting all those essential amino acids.
Okay.
Think of it like building blocks. You need all the different pieces to create a solid structure.
Okay.
For instance, beans and rice are a classic combination. Beans are high in lysine, an amino acid that rice lacks,
Okay.
while rice is high in methionine, which beans lack.
I see.
Together, they form a complete protein.
So it's like a protein power couple.
Yes,
What are some other good combinations?
there are so many possibilities.
Okay.
Hummus and pita, bread lentil soup with whole grain bread, a salad with chickpeas and quinoa. The combinations are endless.
This is already making me rethink my meal planning.
Good.
But let's talk about another plant-based protein source that seems to be everywhere these days, soy.
Right.
What's the deal with soy and why is it so popular?
Soy is incredibly versatile. You can eat it in so many forms. Edamame, tofu tempeh, soy milk, the list goes on.
Wow.
And it's a complete protein, which is a big plus.
Okay.
One thing that makes soy particularly interesting is the fermentation process used to create foods like tempeh and miso.
Fermentation, that's a buzzword I've been hearing a lot lately.
Mm-hmm.
But how does that actually benefit us?
Fermentation basically uses beneficial bacteria to break down complex sugars and proteins, making them easier for our bodies to digest.
Got it.
It can also increase the bioavailability of certain nutrients.
Okay.
For example, fermented soy products tend to have higher levels of vitamin K2, which is important for bone health.
So not only is fermented soy easier to digest, but it also gives us an extra nutritional boost.
Yes.
I'm starting to see why plant-based proteins are getting so much attention.
Right.
But what about the taste? Can plant-based proteins really compete with the flavor of meat?
Yeah.
I mean, I love a good veggie burger, but sometimes I crave that savory, meaty flavor,
Sure.
you know?
That's where the food science gets really exciting.
Okay.
Companies like Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods have been using some cutting-edge technology to create plant-based meats that are remarkably similar in taste and texture to animal meat.
I've heard about those.
Yeah.
They seem almost too good to be true. What's the secret behind their meaty magic?
Beyond Meat uses a combination of pea protein, rice protein, and mung bean protein to create their burgers and sausages. They also use beet juice to give it that reddish meat-like color.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah.
But what about Impossible Foods? How do they manage to replicate that distinct meat flavor?
They've discovered a way to use heme,
Okay.
a molecule found in both plants and animals, to recreate that meaty taste and aroma.
Okay.
They extract heme from soy plants and add it to their products, giving them that unmistakable meaty flavor.
That's fascinating. So they're not just imitating the texture, they're actually replicating the flavor on a molecular level.
Exactly.
I have to admit, I'm impressed.
It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and we're seeing even more innovation with unconventional sources like algae and hemp seeds.
Right.
Algae. Seriously?
Yeah,
Like the stuff in my fish tank?
you got it. Certain types of algae, like spirulina, are packed with protein amino acids and even essential fatty acids.
Really?
They're already being used in supplements, but we're starting to see them incorporated into more mainstream foods, like pasta and snacks.
So pond scum is the new superfood. That's one for the dinner party conversation starters.
Yeah.
What about hemp seeds? What makes them stand out?
Hemp seeds are a complete protein,
Okay.
and they're also a good source of omega-3 fatty acids, which are beneficial for heart health and brain function.
Okay.
They have a slightly nutty flavor and can be added to smoothies, yogurt, or even sprinkled on salads.
Okay, so we've got legumes, quinoa, soy, algae, hemp seeds.
Right.
It's amazing to see how many different plants can provide us with protein.
Yeah, it really is.
What about dairy alternatives? I know there are tons of plant-based milk options out there, but are they actually a good source of protein?
Some are better than others.
Okay.
Soy milk tends to have the highest protein content comparable to cow's milk.
Right.
Almond milk and rice milk are lower in protein,
Hmm.
but there are now brands fortifying them with pea protein to boost their nutritional value.
Okay.
And it's not just milk. There are also plant-based yogurts, cheeses, and even ice creams.
Wow, it sounds like the plant-based world is exploding with options.
It is.
But with all this talk about protein sources, I'm curious about the actual health benefits.
Yeah.
Is there any evidence to support the hype?
There's actually a growing body of research suggesting that incorporating more plant-based proteins into your diet can have significant health advantages.
Okay, let's dive into that.
Right.
What kind of benefits are we talking about?
Well, for starters, plant-based proteins are typically lower in saturated fat and cholesterol compared to animal proteins.
Oh.
This can be a big win for heart health.
Right.
There's a good amount of research showing that diets rich in plant-based proteins can help lower LDL cholesterol, which is the bad cholesterol that contributes to heart disease.
So swapping out some burgers for lentil soup could actually make a difference in my cholesterol levels. That's good to know.
Exactly. And it's not just about what plant-based proteins lack.
Right.
It's also about what they're packed with.
Okay.
They're full of fiber, which is essential for digestive health and can help regulate blood sugar levels.
That's especially important with so many people struggling with type 2 diabetes these days.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fiber slows down the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream,
Okay.
which helps keep blood sugar levels stable and can improve insulin sensitivity.
Okay, so heart health diabetes management.
Yes.
What else? I've heard some buzz about plant-based diets and cancer prevention. Is there any truth to that?
There's definitely a link, though. It's important to emphasize that research is still ongoing.
Okay.
Studies suggest that diets rich in fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, all of which are often sources of plant-based protein, may lower the risk of certain types of cancer.
Is that because of the protein itself or something else in those foods?
It's likely due to a combination of factors.
Okay.
Plant-based foods are packed with antioxidants,
Right.
which help protect our cells from damage.
Gotcha.
They also contain various bioactive compounds,
Okay.
like phytochemicals that
Yeah.
have been shown to have anti-cancer properties. For example, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower contain compounds called glucosinolates that may help inhibit tumor growth.
So it's not just about the protein, it's about the whole package of nutrients and beneficial compounds found in plant-based foods.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. But let's shift gears a bit and talk about the environmental impact that's a big part of the plant-based protein story, isn't it?
Absolutely. One of the most compelling arguments for incorporating more plant-based proteins into our diets is the positive impact it can have on the environment.
I've heard that meat production is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. Is that where plant-based proteins have an edge?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
The meat industry, especially livestock farming, is a significant source of greenhouse gas emissions.
Right.
Primarily methane from animals and carbon dioxide from deforestation for grazing land.
Okay.
Plant-based protein production, on the other hand, generally has a much smaller carbon footprint.
So choosing beans over beef is a climate-friendly choice. What about resource efficiency? I know water scarcity is a growing concern. How do plant-based proteins compare to meat in terms of water usage?
It's quite a difference. It takes a lot more water to produce a pound of meat compared to a pound of plant-based protein.
Okay.
For example, producing a pound of beef can require thousands of gallons of water, while lentils need only a fraction of that amount.
Wow, that's a pretty stark contrast. So plant-based proteins are easier on the environment in terms of both greenhouse gas emissions and water usage.
Yes.
But hold on, I've heard that some plant-based products, like almond milk,
Yeah.
can actually be quite water intensive to produce.
Right.
How do we reconcile that with the overall sustainability argument?
That's a great question. It's important to remember that not all plant-based foods are created equal when it comes to their environmental footprint.
Okay.
Almond milk, for instance, requires a significant amount of water to grow the almonds.
Right.
However, even with its higher water footprint, almond milk still uses less water than dairy milk production.
So it's a matter of looking at the bigger picture and comparing different options.
Yes.
Are there any other environmental factors we should be considering?
Definitely. One important aspect is biodiversity.
Okay.
Animal agriculture, especially large-scale factory farming, can contribute to deforestation and habitat loss,
Right.
threatening biodiversity.
Right.
Plant-based agriculture, especially when practiced sustainably, can actually help promote biodiversity by providing habitats for insects and other wildlife.
It sounds like there are a lot of layers to the environmental impact of our food choices.
There are.
But overall, it seems like incorporating more plant-based proteins into our diets is a step in the right direction.
I agree. It's not a silver bullet, but it's definitely a powerful tool we can use to reduce our environmental impact and create a more sustainable food system.
This is a lot to take in.
It is.
We've covered the sources of plant-based proteins,
Yes.
the potential health benefits, the environmental advantages. It's clear that plant-based proteins are more than just a fad. They represent a shift towards a more conscious and sustainable way of eating.
Exactly. And the best part is it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Okay.
You don't have to become a vegan overnight to make a difference.
So what's a good starting point for someone who's curious about incorporating more plant-based proteins into their diet?
I always recommend starting small and experimenting.
Okay.
Try swapping out meat for a plant-based option once or twice a week.
Gotcha.
Maybe you make lentil soup instead of chicken noodle, or try a black bean burger instead of a beef burger.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many delicious and satisfying options out there.
That's great advice.
Thank you.
It's about finding what works for you and making gradual changes that you can sustain over time. But what about those pesky nutrient deficiencies we hear about with plant-based diets?
Yeah.
Are there any specific nutrients we should be paying extra attention to?
That's an important point.
Okay.
While plant-based diets can be incredibly nutritious,
Right.
there are a few nutrients that can be harder to get from plant sources alone. Vitamin B12 is one that's primarily found in animal products. So if you're not eating any meat, dairy, or eggs,
Right.
you'll need to get B12 from fortified foods or a supplement.
Makes sense. B12 is crucial for energy production and a healthy nervous system. So
Yeah.
we don't want to be deficient in that. What else?
Iron is another one to be mindful of.
Okay.
While plant-based foods contain iron,
Mm-hmm.
it's a type called non-heme iron, which isn't as easily absorbed by the body as the heme iron found in meat.
So how do we make sure we're getting enough iron on a plant-based diet?
There are a few strategies you can use.
Okay.
Combining iron-rich plant foods with a source of vitamin C can enhance absorption.
Okay.
For example, having a lentil salad with a squeeze of lemon juice or some bell peppers.
Right.
You can also cook with cast iron cookware, which can leach a small amount of iron into your food.
Okay, good to know. So it sounds like a little planning and awareness can go a long way in ensuring we're meeting all of our nutritional needs on a plant-based diet.
It can.
But I have to ask, is there a downside to plant-based proteins? Are there any potential drawbacks we should be aware of?
Like anything, there are a few things to keep in mind.
Okay.
Some plant-based proteins can be high in fiber,
Right.
which is generally a good thing.
Yeah.
But if you increase your fiber intake too quickly,
Okay.
you might experience some digestive discomfort like bloating or gas.
So it's all about moderation and listening to your body.
Exactly. It's also important to be aware of potential allergens.
Okay.
Soy is a common allergen, as are some nuts and seeds.
Right.
If you have any food allergies, it's crucial to read labels carefully and make sure you're choosing plant-based protein sources that are safe for you.
That's a good reminder. Food allergies are definitely something to take seriously.
They are.
So before we wrap up our deep dive into the world of plant-based proteins,
Oh.
any final thoughts for our listeners who might be on the fence about incorporating more of these foods into their lives?
I would say don't be afraid to experiment. Start with small changes. Try new recipes. Find what you enjoy, and don't get discouraged if you don't love everything you try.
Mm-hmm.
It's a journey, and the most important thing is to find what works best for you and your lifestyle.
That's a great point. It's not about being perfect. It's about finding a sustainable way of eating that nourishes your body and aligns with your values.
Exactly. And who knows, you might just discover some new favorite foods along the way.
I think that's the beauty of food. It's a constant exploration of flavors, textures, and traditions. And with plant-based proteins, we're not just expanding our culinary horizons,
Right.
we're also embracing a way of eating that can benefit our health, the environment, and maybe even the world.
Well said.
It's been a fascinating deep dive into the world of plant-based proteins. I hope you learned something new, maybe even feel inspired to try something different on your plate. Thanks for joining us.